The three Knights Templar that were possessed by demons from King Solomon's ancient temple in Jerusalem? Why would the CIA unclassify the information now? Why was it classified in the first place?
Okay, so if this is true, it would confirm that demonic entities are real and that there's a connection between demons and cryptids. Not to mention, the church used evil to fight evil.
Wait, what? What exactly do you mean?
Let's start from the beginning. In the year 1296, during the tumultuous Middle Ages, Pope Boniface VIII summoned a covert unit of elite warriors known as Desertores, the Forsaken. These knights, remnants of the Templar Order, were more than just men. They were anomalies, wielding dark and mysterious powers that set them apart from their brethren. Their abilities, though feared by the Church, had proven indispensable in the Vatican's war against the unholy. Their mission, to eliminate a monstrous threat in a remote Austrian village plagued by horrors whispered to have emerged from the depths of hell itself.
Okay, so where did these Knights Templars get their powers from? And were they evil?
The Knights' transformation began years earlier, during the Crusades, when they unearthed forbidden ancient knowledge beneath the ruins of Solomon's Temple in Jerusalem. During the Holy Wars, two powerful monastic military orders stood as bastions of Christendom, the Knights Hospitaller and the Knights of the Holy Sepulchre. Amidst the turmoil, whispers of a dark secret buried beneath Solomon's Temple reached the ears of their enemies, the Muslim armies. It was said that an ancient and sinister power lay dormant in the temple's depths, a force so terrible that it might turn the tide of war. In an act of cunning, their foes anonymously tipped the knights off about the hidden treasure, hoping to unleash whatever malevolence lurked below and sabotage the Crusaders' efforts. Yet, the knights, driven by visions of unfathomable relics and treasures, ignored the warnings. Time was slipping away, and they knew their stronghold in Jerusalem was on the brink of collapse. Whispers of an impending attack grew louder, and with their numbers dwindling and their cause faltering, the knights prepared for their final stand. Their last directive was clear: retrieve the holy relics, protect the sacred knowledge, and send it all to their homeland by sea, no matter the cost. Legend speaks of a time, thousands of years ago, when King Solomon, renowned for his wisdom, summoned the Archangel Michael to aid him in constructing the great temple. Michael descended from the heavens, bearing a magical ring imbued with divine power. This ring, adorned with the six-pointed star, known as the Seal of Solomon, granted the king the unparalleled ability to command demons. Under Solomon's command, the mighty Beelzebul, once the highest-ranking angel in heaven, was forced to serve alongside other demons to complete the temple's construction. With their supernatural strength and abilities, the temple rose in magnificent splendor. However, Beelzebul, harboring a dark ambition, revealed his celestial origins and plotted his rebellion. When the temple was finished, Beelzebul and two other powerful entities broke free from Solomon's control. Among them was Ornias, who possessed a young man beloved by the king. Overwhelmed by this betrayal and the chaos it unleashed, Solomon turned to the magical arts once more. He invoked the Almadel, a sacred ritual detailed in the Lesser Key of Solomon, to call upon Michael one final time. In his moment of despair, Solomon pleaded for divine assistance. Michael returned, this time bearing 3 mystical rings forged in the heavens by God himself. These rings, adorned with the Seal of Solomon, held the power to imprison the essence of any celestial or infernal being. Armed with this gift, Solomon regained dominion over the rebellious spirits, restoring order and solidifying his legacy as a ruler who bridged the realms of the divine and the arcane. Back to that fateful night of the Crusades. Amid the devastation, the Grand Master of the Knights ordered 3 of his most trusted and skilled warriors to descend into the uncovered tunnels beneath the stronghold. Their mission, to retrieve the sacred relics from Solomon's temple and ensure their safe passage to the homeland. These knights knew there would be no return. As the gate fell and enemy soldiers swarmed the walls, the stronghold teetered on the brink of collapse. The Grand Master, with the remaining knights, staged a desperate defense at the tunnel's entrance. The clash of steel and cries of battle echoed through the halls. Outnumbered 20 to 1, the knights held firm, the narrow confines of the castle their only advantage. As the enemy broke through, the last of the defenders braced themselves for the end, knowing their lives were but a brief buffer for the mission below. The ancient doors to Solomon's temple flew open, and shadows poured forth like living smoke, vanishing into the enemy ranks. Moments later, the three knights emerged from the depths, each bearing a ring inscribed with the seal of Solomon, a six-pointed star of immense power. Their eyes were jet black, and an unearthly presence radiated from them, striking terror into friend and foe alike. Without hesitation, the knights waded into the battle, their power unmatched. The tide turned in an instant as they tore through the invading forces. The remaining defenders rallied behind the unholy trio, cutting a path of destruction until the enemy army, utterly decimated, surrendered. Legends say the Muslim Brotherhood intervened, striking a deal with the last of the knights. The Crusaders would take what they had found in the temple, leave Jerusalem, and vow never to return. Terms were accepted. With the relics secured, the surviving knights boarded their ship and sailed for Europe, their departure marking the end of their presence in the Holy Land. Upon arriving ashore, the three knights, haunted by the cursed rings, were confronted by their fellow Templars. The Grand Master himself demanded a full account of their journey and any treasures they had recovered. Bound by the truth, with witnesses from their escape, the knights reluctantly revealed their tale, the cursed rings, their power, and the dark price they paid to survive. The Grand Master, appalled, ordered their immediate disarmament. "Surrender the rings and submit to judgment," he commanded. But the knights, knowing they could not trust their fates to blind zealotry, resisted. The survivors of their voyage stood by them, unwilling to abandon those who had saved them. In desperation, the knights unleashed the ring's forbidden powers. Shadows twisted and danced, forming spectral warriors that tore through the Grand Master's unprepared soldiers. Barriers of darkness thwarted every attempt to advance, leaving the battlefield littered with defeated men. In the aftermath of the bloodshed, the knights and survivors swore a solemn oath to protect the secret of the rings. The three forsaken knights and the survivors parted ways, each burdened with the knowledge of their powers and the horrors they had wrought. Months later, the three knights, now known as the Forsaken Knights, lived in solitude, hidden from the world. Their quiet exile was shattered when a unit of Templars, loyal friends from their old order, found them. "Why have you forsaken yourselves?" one demanded. "Why did you slaughter your own? Why have you turned to the darkness?" The eldest of the Forsaken Knights stepped forward, his voice heavy with sorrow. "We did not choose the darkness. The darkness chose us. In Jerusalem, we were ordered to uncover King Solomon's holy relics. As the enemy overran us, we found these rings, passed down from the Archangel Michael to King Solomon to command entities. We used their power to save the survivors and ourselves." Though shocked, the Templars saw the pain in their comrades' eyes and the truth in their words. They offered a fragile truce and convinced the Forsaken Knights to face judgment in Rome before Pope Boniface VIII and the Council of Vienne. Brought before the Pope, Pope Boniface VIII sat upon a towering throne of black marble, his eyes gleaming with a dangerous intensity. Flanked by his holy guards, faces hidden behind silver helms, he declared, "You are charged with malevolent sorcery and treachery. For your crimes, you will burn at the stake." Before the sentence could be carried out, a mysterious priest, clad in black with a hood that obscured his face, whispered into the Pope's ear. Whatever was said seemed to change Boniface's mind. The knights would have fought their way out of the Vatican, but they didn't want to spill any more innocent blood, so they were waiting until the very last second before their execution to make a move. "There is another path," the Pope announced, his lips curling into a twisted smile. "Use your dark powers for the Church and for God, and I promise you eventual freedom." The knights exchanged grim glances, fugitives in a world that feared and hunted them. They knew they didn't want to live on the run. Reluctantly, they swore an oath to serve the Pope. As the Forsaken Knights were led deeper into the Vatican's labyrinthine halls, the holy guards escorted them to a hidden crypt. The air grew colder, and the torches lining the walls flickered with an eerie blue flame. "This," one guard said, his voice echoing off the stone walls, "is where the Church fights the true war." They passed cells containing twisted creatures, beasts unlike anything the knights had seen. Some snarled and lunged against their iron bars, others sat in silence, their glowing eyes betraying unnatural intelligence. The Pope's holy guards do more than protect. We capture and control these abominations, the guard explained. They are studied, weaponized. We harness their power for the glory of God. In an adjacent chamber, the knights beheld a vast library filled with ancient tomes and artifacts. Some relics bore inscriptions in languages long forgotten. Others seemed to hum with energy, as though alive. One artifact, a jagged obsidian blade, seemed to pulse when the Forsaken Knights approached. These relics, the guard continued, are from other worlds, other realms. The Church's reach goes far beyond this mortal plane. The Knights shared uneasy glances. The Vatican's secrets were as dark as the power they wielded. The Knights were brought to a chamber where Pope Boniface awaited them. There have been attacks. The Pope then detailed their upcoming mission, the cursed village of Austria. He began, his voice laced with malice. Creatures of the night terrorize the countryside, leaving carnage in their wake. You will slay these beasts. You will do God's work. With that, the Forsaken Knights were armed with holy relics and ancient tools of war. The years leading up to their current mission, which was their first, had been marked by an unsettling rise in sightings of cryptids, creatures thought to be nothing more than myths and legends. These beings, however, were terrifyingly real. Reports of werewolves described them as towering, muscular beasts, capable of ripping through steel and vanishing under the cover of darkness. Vampires, on the other hand, were often found in the shadows of abandoned castles or remote villages, preying on the weak and draining them of blood. Even more chilling were the possessed humans, ordinary people, who, after coming into contact with cursed objects or dark rituals, became vessels for unspeakable evil. The Knights had been ordered to record their encounters, documenting every weakness and strength they observed, though the true origins of these creatures remained a mystery. Strange patterns and symbols linked many of these encounters, hinting at a larger, more sinister force pulling the strings. The Pope also oddly added, "If you're able to bring any back alive, we will be able to study them," farther furthering our cause. Forsaken Knights rode westward through the alpine wilderness. Their journey took them through snow-laden forests and jagged cliffs, the air thick with an unnatural chill. As they approached the village, faint tendrils of smoke rose into the twilight sky. Yet, as they entered the settlement, an eerie silence enveloped them. The once thriving community was now a ghost town. Doors hung ajar, livestock wandered aimlessly, and the streets were littered with abandoned tools and personal belongings. Inside one dilapidated house, they discovered a lone survivor, a villager, clinging to life, his body riddled with wounds. "What happened here?" demanded the lead knight, his voice like iron. The man rasped, his words barely audible. "They looked human. We thought they were like us." His trembling hand gestured weakly toward the mountains before his breath left him, his lifeless body crumpling to the floor. The knights followed the villager's final gesture, ascending the foreboding peaks. The trail was littered with human remains, gnawed bones, and tattered clothing. Their path ended at a massive cave entrance, its gaping maw like a portal to another realm. Steeling themselves, they ventured inside. The cavern's air was oppressive, laden with a foul stench. Flickering torchlight revealed walls etched with arcane symbols that seemed to shift when viewed from the corner of the eye. Among the detritus of past victims, they found a soldier's journal detailing gruesome transformations. The predators were not mere beasts, but werewolves, men twisted into monstrosities by demonic possession. As the knights pressed onward, they entered a vast chamber littered with ceremonial artifacts. Deeper within the cave, they discovered a sealed stone door marked with symbols alien even to their dark knowledge, channeling their collective power. The knights shattered the barrier, revealing an antechamber filled with cages. Emaciated villagers huddled within, their hollow eyes pleading for salvation. Nearby, 3 robed figures performed a dark ritual. The knights struck with ruthless efficiency, dispatching the cultists. Yet, as one lay dying, he issued a chilling warning. "You've only delayed the inevitable. It's our time now." After the knights took a few moments to themselves, a tense dialogue unfolded. They debated whether to press onward or retreat from the unknown depths. One knight, driven by the urgency of their mission from the Catholic Church, urged them to continue. However, the other two voiced their concerns about the escalating dangers lurking below. With uncertainty hanging in the air, they reached a pivotal moment where a decision had to be made. Press on or retreat. "Well, I guess I'm going alone," declared one knight with unwavering resolve. The flickering torchlight cast dancing shadows on his helmet as he turned and began walking away. The other two exchanged uneasy glances, their loyalty clouding their judgment. Yet, in a silent understanding, they quickly changed their minds and hastened to catch up with their fellow Templar. Together, they descended deeper into the abyss. The hellish surroundings grew increasingly nightmarish. Sinister occult symbols adorned the walls, and cloaked figures performed dark ceremonies and sacrificial rituals by torchlight with grim determination. Remaining undetected, the knights stalked 3 of these mysterious figures, their movements guided by an unsettling curiosity. Following the commotion, the knights approached an entrance where a vast assembly of cultists had gathered. The murmurs fell silent, and all eyes turned toward a raised platform. From the shadows emerged a towering figure cloaked in a dark robe that concealed its face and form, its aura exuding a palpable malevolence. The crowd bowed in hushed reverence as the figure began to speak, its voice resonating with power and authority. "Loyal followers," it intoned, "let me recount to you the ancient history of our lineage, the story of our origins, and the divine mission we now embark upon." The figure wove a tale of primordial conflict and divine intervention. Thousands of years ago, at the cradle of civilization, a battle raged among angelic beings. 2 powerful entities clashed over humanity's fate, one advocating enlightenment, the other suppression. In the aftermath, the Angel of Enlightenment emerged victorious, bestowing knowledge upon favored humans and inheriting the secrets of the fallen angels. But this victory came at a cost. The figure continued solemnly. A great division fractured the celestial hierarchy, and 1/3 of the angels were exiled to roam the earth for eternity. The figure described the creation of the Nephilim, beings born of the union between fallen angels and human women. "We, the Nephilim, walked among humanity as demigods, wielding great power and influence," it declared. Despite their might, the Nephilim were betrayed, their spirits imprisoned in the earth's depths by powerful spells. But now, the figure proclaimed, "the time for vengeance is nigh. We will destroy the Church and the false Templars who guard what is rightfully ours, the artifact sealed within the 3 rings bestowed upon King Solomon by the Archangel Michael. Destroy the knights and retrieve the artifact." As the speech ended, fervent devotion filled the air. The cultists, now galvanized by their leader's words, prepared to embark on their divine mission of vengeance and conquest. The towering figure retreated into the shadows, vanishing as swiftly as it had appeared. The knights exchanged tense glances before one unsheathed his sword, the scraping of metal marking the onset of battle. In a swift and silent assault, 3 black-robed figures fell, their defeat a prelude to the chaos that followed. A guttural cry rose from the remaining cultists, their bodies convulsing and grotesquely transforming into towering, werewolf-like entities with eyes burning with demonic fury. Encircled by these snarling beasts, the knights tapped into the arcane energy of their cursed rings. A dark aura enveloped them, enhancing their physical abilities to superhuman levels. The cave seemed to recoil as forbidden spells surged from the knights' bodies. One knight, his agility heightened to supernatural swiftness, darted through the shadows, his silver blade a blur as it cleaved sinew and bone. Another, his strength magnified, wielded his great sword with devastating force, felling foes with each mighty sweep. The third knight unleashed spells that ensnared limbs with chains of shadows and burned flesh with spectral flames. The melee became a savage tableau of steel and sorcery. Every strike from the knights was met with ferocious resistance, but the dark enchantments of their rings proved relentless. With each passing moment, their blades sang louder, their spells grew more potent, and their enemies' numbers dwindled. At last, the knights reached the cult leader, whose eyes gleamed with malevolent intelligence. A fierce battle ensued, but the knights' resolve and the power of their cursed rings proved insurmountable. With a final surge of eldritch energy, they broke through the leader's defenses, shattering his command over the cryptids. Exhausted but victorious, the knights stood amidst the ruins of their foes. Though the rings had exacted a heavy toll, they had used their cursed gift to restore peace to the ravaged village. The legend of the three forsaken knights would echo through time, not as outcasts, but as champions who, bound by dark magic, had faced the abyss and emerged triumphant. But the towering figure that retreated into the shadows was still out there somewhere. The knights knew their mission wasn't over.